Welcome. I'm Susie Roberti. And let's talk tail waggers. I have a wonderful, dear, sweet guest today. But before we get started, I would like to say thank you to my camera person. Thank you, Dave. You know, BPTV is all volunteers, and you are more than welcome to come up and learn how to use cameras. Yes, learn how to use a camera. Learn how to do some editing. If you're creative enough to do your own show, there's a lot, or just come up and visit. But it's truly a wonderful little corner of the world. I love it, and everybody that's been here for many years thinks it's a pretty neat place. So now I'm going to say hello to Samantha.
Good morning. Thank you for having me, Susie.
You're welcome. And what is the name of your organization?
Domestic Violence Services of Southwestern Pennsylvania.
Okay. Now, how did you get started in this?
I actually contacted the agency interested in a volunteer position. I was about to graduate school and I was looking for an internship. And I was looking for just a volunteer position, and I called up and they just happened to be hiring, and I hit it off with my now supervisor on the phone, and the rest is history. I've been there for about 5 years.
Isn't that amazing? I often say about volunteering, you know, because everybody's here at BP is a volunteer other than our director. And the kids have come up and been with us for years, you know, and they've gone off and gotten jobs. And it's a wonderful thing on your resume.
Oh, yes,
you know,
and they're invaluable.
And you didn't even have to do it.
No. No, I didn't. But
I guess you were just supposed to. God said
meant to be.
You was meant to be. Okay, so what do you do?
My official title is Community Education Specialist, and basically that's a long term for I will speak to anyone who's willing to listen about this issue. So I primarily handle school-age children. I focus on teen dating violence a lot in high schools. Unfortunately, middle schools now too. Middle school students are dating.
Isn't it amazing? It goes from college down into the high schools, and from the high schools and it goes down.
Yeah.
People don't believe that, but
they
it's true.
do not. No, but yes, we do speak to them as young as preschool age children. We teach them our hands are not for hitting. Middle school, we talk about bullying, feelings, self-esteem, communication, all of these things to help prevent warning signs of a potentially unhealthy relationship. And then we make our way through high school and college with dating abuse.
Wow. So how did you get an idea for the pets?
The pets. I was driving home. October, if you don't know, is nationally, it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And we have a little committee that we form, and every year we get together and we try to raise awareness any way possible for domestic violence. And if you don't know, and it looks like you did based on what you're wearing, but purple is the color for domestic violence.
Oh.
And I'm sure you knew that, and that's why. But so every year we try to raise awareness with this Purple Ribbon campaign. And people will decorate trees and bushes, and we have police officers. Police departments will put the little magnetic, you know, like, or support our troops, but for domestic violence on their cars. So we have a wonderful support, you know, base there of people. But I was driving home one day on a Sunday from a church that had us come and speak. And I had donations. My whole car was filled with donations from this church. And I passed the Washington County Humane Society. And I saw all of the dogs, and I said to my supervisor, you know, we all know that there's a link between animal abuse and domestic violence. And even though we have this amazing support from most people in October, there still is a stigma that people don't like to talk about domestic violence. And there are a lot of people that, you know, if you say, well, you wear a purple ribbon in October, they will. But if you say, would you like a sign for your front yard that says domestic violence? No, thank you.
Because then it might be happening there.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's the thing that we don't like to talk about. So we decided to come in through a different door, a different avenue, and try animals. We thought everybody loves animals. And, you know, we have Susie Smith that was having the Furry Fall Festival in Washington, and we thought, how cool would that be to have each dog with a little purple ribbon on their collar, you know, because it does affect everyone, including pets.
Yeah, yeah. I imagine there are people that really that either abuse them at the same time they abuse the family
Yes.
members, or they would use that as a weapon towards a family member.
Absolutely.
Abusing an animal.
Absolutely. Domestic violence, in and of itself, to summarize it, there's two words, and it's power and control.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're trying to create this atmosphere of power and control, and that also includes the pets. They're trying to encourage submission from their family members. What I say goes, and I will do that any means possible, including abusing the pets.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly. I don't think people would. It's a good subject today. Because I don't think people really would put those two together.
No.
You just wouldn't think of that, only because you're being directed, at human beings.
Right.
Right. But to stop and think, because when Susie told me about you, it was just like, oh my Lord.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My Lord, my Lord. and I never gave that a thought.
Right.
I never did.
We have this, I think, stereotypical view. We picture the victim of domestic violence being a woman. And she has a black eye and she's cowering in a corner, and we think that that's domestic violence. Mm-hmm. But there's so many more definitions to that. And the thing to remember is that there's never physical abuse present in one of these relationships without verbal or emotional abuse leading up to it. And certainly abusing the pet, and the family pet, is emotional abuse for the wife, for the children. And with that, when we were talking about a stereotypical victim, I don't want to sit here, and I find myself all the time doing this, but referring to the victim as she and the abuser as he.
Right, yeah, right.
And is it possible that it can be the other way?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Especially in teenage relationships, it occurs a lot. Yes. So, but with statistics say that 95% of reported victims are female. And so that's why you hear advocates refer to victims as she. But it does not mean that it doesn't occur the other way.
Yeah.
And,
I could imagine that if a gentleman or a lady would be going after someone, and the dog really adored that person, certainly, that it would come to its rescue, and that's when the abuse would start with that. And I think I know myself that if I was in that situation, that no matter what they did to me, okay. But I think that would just absolutely take me and just right down.
Sure.
My heart.
Yeah. And that's the thing to remember, is when people are saying what do you think the most common question is for, people who are in these relationships that won't leave? They hear all the time, well, why don't you just leave? If it's really that bad, why don't you just leave? And there are so many reasons why people don't leave.
Do you know, I'll tell you, I was in that situation many years ago, and people would say, why don't you just go? I didn't have a phone, and none of the neighbors would let me borrow their phone if my children were sick, because, well, why don't you do something about it? And one day, it just came to me, and I said to the lady next door, I said, can I pack my clothes and my son and come over here and live? And then we can do something about it? And she just closed the door in my face. And this is what women should say, is that when people say to you, why don't you leave? And look at them and say, well, thank you. Can I pack my things and come be with you? And then we'll call, and then we will do something about this. No one understands the depth of loneliness unless you are that person.
Right.
And I mean, it comes from everywhere, you know what I mean? Because you're the mother, and these things are happening, and you're trying to protect this, then you try to protect that, or be protecting the pet. If you have a grandma or an elderly person living with you, this whole world of abuse is on this lady or a young girl or whatever, or man. But it is a complete fog that completely surrounds you.
Absolutely.
And when you ask for help. They'll give you help, but it never seems to be what that specific person needs either, you know? So you have to keep searching.
Right.
You know, you never give up searching.
Absolutely. And the important thing that you were saying is what a victim needs during that time is information and referrals, not advice and not opinions.
And a question.
Absolutely.
A question in the middle of this madness.
And because inadvertently, I think I would like to believe that people, the best in people, and that when they ask that question, why don't you just leave? They're asking out of genuine concern, out of I care for you. I really don't want you in this situation anymore. Why don't you leave? You deserve more. But it's a matter of reframing how we say it, because the way it comes off to a victim, it's very judgmental. You know, it's basically saying, well, the abuser, they're crazy and they're out of control. They can't help themselves. But you could change your situation, so why don't you just leave?
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't think that people think of that. But the more important question is, why does this person abuse? You know, there's no harm in being the victim.
There you go. And you had, there you go. And that is the easiest and most wonderful thing that a woman or a man that has been abused, when that comes to them, it is that person. It is not you.
Right.
You are the keeper of the key of the house, of the children, of your pets, of everything. And once you say, oh my Lord, you know, it wasn't me, then, and this might take years and years down the road. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But it just, one day, when your self-esteem begins to grow after years and years, and you'll just look at yourself or be driving a car, and a thought will come into your mind. You know, that wasn't me that did that. You know, he just like coming home and doing what he did because he could get away with it.
All right. And the less we talk about these issues, the longer it takes, I think, for victims to have that realization.
Yeah.
But we need to make it a conversation that is okay to have.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about animal abuse. We talk about, you know, a lot of different issues that are acceptable to talk about. And as a matter of fact, when I mentioned earlier that October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, it also is another public national awareness month represented by a pink ribbon. I'm sure you know what it is. Breast Cancer Awareness Month in October.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, while I'm not taking anything away from breast cancer, oftentimes it's domestic violence is overshadowed by that. And it's understandable in that people, a lot of people think that breast cancer affects more people than domestic violence, when in fact annually domestic violence affects more women than breast cancer, cervical cancer, and diabetes combined.
And just think of all the places that a lady has to go for breast cancer, and look at what ladies have to go, or gentlemen have to go for abuse. It should, and to be able to take their pet, I would imagine that would be devastating too.
Yes, and that's the issue that a lot of times when we're getting back to the issue of why someone stays, on average it'll take a woman 7 times before she leaves for good. And there's a variety of reasons why. It can be the children, it can be finances, it can be a load of things. And then please don't discount the fact also that it is very possible that they love this person. You know, they're not always abusive, and that's the thing that people have to remember. But in there, one of those reasons could very much be that they're afraid for their pets. You know, he said he would kill the dog, and I've seen him kick the dog. 71% of battered women report that their animals are also abused. 71%. So a lot of times, like unfortunately, our shelter does not allow pets. That can be a huge deterrent to someone in coming and seeking shelter.
Yeah. Well, wouldn't that be nice if we could get a group of people that could be on emergency call?
It would be amazing.
That when a lady would be leaving and she would have a pet, you know, and a social pet, not, you know, something that would be biting or anything, but that they could call, and they would come and take the pet and keep the pet as long as the lady's, you know, getting help and, you know, with her children. I think that would be a beautiful idea.
It would. It would be wonderful to utilize the network of followers that I'm sure that you have that love pets.
And ladies that have been in the situation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But, you know, and we're very fortunate to have relationships with the local Humane Society, but you know, like with anything, they have limited space and they do what they can. But certainly if there is someone who, in terms of, you know, when people ask, what can I do to help? What can I do to help? You know, it's not always monetary. It's not always, obviously, listening and things like that. But this, where you wouldn't think, you know,
And
willing. And
that could be part of the organization at the Humane Society, at Washington Area Humane Society, if they would like to take it on. That they would have phone numbers, you know, of volunteers. Sure. That, you know, and you might not ever get called, or you might get called once in you know, once or twice. But boy, wouldn't that be a grand, wonderful, heart-fulfilling thing to do.
And that one phone call they receive and they take might be the one life that they save, because it's the only thing standing in the way of that person.
Or a kitty cat or a bird, you know, whatever the people have. And boy, that would be a really terrific idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Maybe that's what our shows are going to get somebody to do.
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
That's going to do that. Yeah. It really, Susie Smith, our love, you know, she is, that lady is, there's just no words of praise for her. She's just a sweetest, kindest, adorable lady. And her husband, Jim's very kind, too. But she called me the other night and said to me about a dog that they brought into the Humane Society that was tied on a 25-pound tow chain. And it was just like a little shepherd-sized dog, you know, outside for 5 years. And somebody finally turned them in, and they went and got it. And on the way home, she had him in a towel and, you know, laid him down in the front seat and was driving, and the dog's head was on her lap. And because they do know when they're rescued, they do. Kitty cats or dogs or even a bird, they know you're here to help them. And she said that she was reading this on the internet, and there was so many, you know, praises, you know, for this people going and getting this dog and all this. And right in the center of all this beauty was this person that said, well, that was very dangerous of you to drive with that dog's head on your lap. And Susie called and she says, can you imagine if somebody would say that? Now, that would be an abuser. That would be, you know, seriously.
Judgmental personality, certainly, yeah.
And I said, what did you write? And she says, well, I wrote that, you know, that was a very wonderful thing that they saved the dog, you know, and had it wrapped in a towel, and it, you know, she was holding it and making it feel safe to go home. And I said, well, why didn't you just write and say, well, if you ever got rescued, gee, I hope somebody would let you put their head on their lap on the way home to make you feel better, you know, and that's. Yeah. You know, that's where that one is. You know what I mean?
There's always someone to criticize the situation.
Yeah, but it isn't even the criticizing. It's the thought, you know? And how anyone can think of abusing someone that you supposedly loved when you got married and cared about or living with or whatever, and then just escalate, and it's more fun, and you know, you're like a little mouse, and boy, they're just getting, you know, the cat.
Exactly what they want.
And the cats, you know, have more fun. And then to turn around and not have enough, but to injure or hurt, you know, the animal. And I never gave that, you know, a thought.
It's become so serious that there is an order in Pennsylvania. A lot of states have these. It's called a protection from abuse, or a PFA, if you've ever heard of that before. Pennsylvania doesn't have your traditional order, like a restraining order. Couldn't think of the word, restraining order. But theirs is a PFA. And basically, it's a blood relative that you can get one against. Blood relatives, a partner, a married spouse, ex-spouse, that sort of thing. So that's the type of relationship that needs to exist. And there are a lot of different things that you can request in a PFA, like if the person has weapons, you know, make the request that the weapons be relinquished, that sort of thing. Pet abuse has become so severe that now certain states, and Pennsylvania is not one of them yet, but get on the horn. Get your people on the horn. But Pennsylvania is not one of these states yet. but where the PFA will cover the pet as well. Well, so then the pet could be covered under the PFA as far as be removed from the environment. The person wouldn't be able to say, the dog's also mine and that sort of thing. Now, like I said, Pennsylvania does not do that right now. Wow. But excuse me, but I know that our legal advocates do make it a point to mention. They ask about pet abuse, and they do mention it. Number one, so that the judge is aware of it, but also because studies that have been done in Washington, D.C. and things like that have noticed that there is absolutely a correlation between the two. And in terms of lethality of an abuser, they are more likely to escalate if they're abusing the animal. And we hear about these horrible school shootings that occur.
Yeah.
Between a period of time from 1997 to 2001, 7 of the school shootings, every one of the boys involved had a history of animal cruelty as well. So there's absolutely a correlation that when this occurs, worse things.
I heard that when I've read that about serial killers too.
Yes,
they start out like that too.
Jeffrey Dahmer,
Son
of Sam, they all
started out. But I never gave that. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we sort of overlook it, but and in terms of just what everyday people can do, responding police officers, maybe think about throwing that question into the mix. As far as, do you have pets? Has the abuser ever touched the pets? Has your husband ever touched the pets? And also when dealing with children, trying to get children to admit if they're being abused, because we can't forget here. There's animals and there's adults, but there are also these children who are in the middle of all of this. And not only are they seeing mommy be hurt, not only are they being hurt, but they're watching the pet be hurt. So, it's horrible for children. But they may be more apt to talk about the pet being injured than themselves. So when you're questioning them and trying to find out what's going on in the home and trying to make them feel comfortable, possibly talk about the dog or the cat, because they love them. So
that is very ingenious. True, because the little one being frightened, and mommy's the big guy too, and daddy's the big guy. But for them to, ask them, is your puppy or kitty cat, and they probably would, they would open up about that more so than, oh my Lord. It's heartbreaking. It really is. And animals always seem to be in the mix. They're just, they're just, if somebody, and abusers time outside too, the animals, and they really like that. That's another time out way in the back, and if they get water, they get water. If they don't, and that's abuse. As far as I'm concerned, and I would imagine it wouldn't be too happy in the house.
There was a professor at a university that did a study on the correlation between the two, and he had said, I'm going to misquote him, so I'm just paraphrasing, but he used the term psychopath, and he said that they are a certifiable, a psychopath. It's the definition of it whenever a person abuses an animal, because that is the ultimate, they're looking in society of, what can I get back from you? I don't want to give anything, but what can I get back from you? And I can't remember his name, or I have notes. I can't remember his name, but he there are certain actual definitions, and people say that sarcastically, but it really is a term, and he defined that as someone who abuses animals.
Wow. Wow. It's just a lot of the animals in the Humane Society are because older people can't take care of them anymore, or a family has separated. But that's what breaks my heart, is that they have to go to there and probably will never see, their family again. And it would be very, very wonderful if we could find a way to have people that would be on call. That is a very, very lovely idea. It truly is. It's time to say goodbye.
Already.
And time goes, I told you.
It does. It went fast.
It goes so very fast when you're talking about it. I want to thank you on behalf of all the tail waggers that you're taking this into your heart and speaking out about it. Because I think when people hear this, really, it's really sinking into me that, you just never, you heard about so-and-so, separated because her husband, did this or did that. But I've never heard that anybody, but they would.
Right.
And it's just, what, 1, 2, and 3. That's what exactly what it would.
The more we talk about the issue, the more we learn, right?
Yeah, the more you think about it. So I hope that everybody out there today learns something today, and there's all kinds of ways that you can volunteer. Like Samantha said, you can bake cookies, you can do this, you can do that at the Humane Society, you can go down and walk the dogs or whatever. But this would really be a wonderful, wonderful idea if you didn't want to get extremely involved,
Correct.
And just have your name on there that they could give you a call, and you could pick up the dog or the kitty cat or the bird and love it until things got calmed down and everyone got a new home or, got their life started. That would be a beautiful, wonderful thing. I want to say thank you. It's January already of 2013, and I want to say thank you to everyone that was on my shows last year. You all mean so very much to me. You really do. I always cry. But anyways, I want you to know that I love all of you very, very much. You really and truly, when I see you in the store or in the street, or I get a note at home, or someone sends something, a message through somebody else to me, it means a lot. And the tail waggers really are very, very important to me, and I love you all for understanding that. So now that we have a new year to start and new things to learn, most of all, I love you, and thanks from all the tail waggers.
My name is Sarah.
And I'm Denise, and we're here at the Western Pennsylvania Humane Society.
We are here to tell you about our Girl Scout Gold Award project.
As you can see, these animals are very lovable, but there's a problem here at the Humane Society.
They do not have enough wet food to give to their animals.
And that's where you guys come in.
We are asking for your help through a generous donation to the Western Pennsylvania Humane Society. At this time, we have collected over 1,000 cans and donated them to the Humane Society, but they still need more. These animals need their food so they can continue to have healthy, full lives before they are adopted out to a loving home.
Another way you can help out is by adopting an animal from the shelter.
Thank you for your time and attention, and I hope that you have the consideration to remember the animals at the Western Pennsylvania Humane Society.
Once you figure out how to speak your kids' language, well, you don't really have to say much at all. From the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.